Okay, so please continue if you are providing your evaluation, your insights and feedbacks. But I will be passing on to and having a conversation with Professor Lisa Harvey-Smith for our closing remarks and how you felt this entire event went and what was the most exciting part, what you think the audience online have learned from it and all of that.
Yeah, thank you, Aki. And look, I think it was a brilliant event, the diversity of experience and thought. The first panel on education, I really enjoyed hearing not just perspectives from the front line, from teachers like Cameron, but also from experts, researchers like Marnie Shea, who really brought together that cultural and research knowledge about what works and those pedagogical principles about individualised learning. I love that. I think it's important as well as researchers that we bring together the policymakers and researchers to really understand each other. So that was another part that I thought was valuable. And of course, evaluation.
Yes,
right? We love evaluation, don't we? Because
the data is so important.
It helps us. It helps us to understand what's working, what isn't working, and be honest about that and actually share that.
And
because
learn from it.
I think it's good that we don't receive funding and deliver programs and then fail to evaluate and fail to be really receptive to those responses. So for me, that has been really the most exciting.
Yeah, taking on board all sorts of evaluation and learning from it. So please contribute to the evaluation, but really having all the different panels and the various insights from whether it be government, academia, research, and how much they all shared the importance of communication, of recognizing evidence-based data and making it user-friendly so that it can turn into something actionable was pretty much what everybody agreed upon, that really strong connection to don't work in silos, work with what you have, community for either, like obviously when we were talking about the Future You program and working with students and having their community support them, but also as academics, as researchers, as educators, you also have this community as well where you can really work and support one another and realize those synergies and make sense of what's happening and support each other in, say, with Padma mentioning the importance of working in a way when you research where policymakers understand that and can really implement that without the denseness of the research and making it user-friendly and easy to implement so that the change can be made.
I think that's one of the challenging aspects of my role actually as Women in STEM Ambassador. I think one of the biggest things is that I'm able to use my scientific communication skills and actually draw back from the jargon, the deep kind of wading through muddy puddles of complexity and instead, making things relatable and actually usable. And that's really important in a government context as well. When you're advising governments, they're very time poor. Ministers are time poor and they have to get across a huge amount of information. So you have to provide really clear advice, and supplement that with the research too. So it's been such a great session.
Yeah, it's been a really insightful event with so many different diverse perspectives shared, lots of takeaways that really can help with gender equity in STEM, but also diversity, equity, inclusion as a whole, organisation, society, businesses, and that work that really highlights that it can create change and anyone and everyone can actually benefit from it, even when the discussion around violence, prevention of violence against women, like the benefits for society as a whole, if there's economic empowerment, the recognition of labour differences and the 9 hours extra of work that a woman would do in a heterosexual relationship based compared to what their partner would be doing, and recognising that it all actually leads up to that equity in all areas of life. And it's so important to really recognise and highlight that all the work you do, whether it's women in STEM, whether it's violence prevention work, whether it's being a very enthusiastic teacher like Cameron, that wants to support and be there for all the other Camerons around the world, to have that support and that motivation is as people mentioned in the word cloud. Like, it is motivating, it is needed, it's absolutely necessary. It's so important to recognize that the equity in STEM is obviously one project, but it actually has so many implications for the outside world and for our community at large.
Yeah, that's what I found. I think working in this role, I started off thinking about the STEM ecosystem because that was what I was asked to do by government. But in fact, you know, it's much broader than that. And as you say, you know, without, you know, justice, etc., you've got to have it across the spectrum. You've got to have equity. You've got to have accessibility, you've got to have inclusion, and that belonging piece as well in workplaces and educational settings where people are safe, where people have as few barriers as possible. And again, we went back to that idea of individualised learning for students, but you can also put that in a workplace context. You know, individualised working conditions.
Absolutely.
And you know, our team works as they wish, remotely or in person or hybridly, and that's just one aspect. You know, people have different working styles, people respond to information differently, so you've just got to really, life's just this wonderful tapestry of learning.
Absolutely.
And it's no different in this space.
Yeah, it's such a valid point that individualised learning can be implemented across everything. Meeting people's access needs, preference needs, caring needs, learning styles, communication styles, and really supporting them and giving an employee what they need so they can fulfill their potential within the role, and meet all their competencies, because their access needs or the adjustments that they need for them to work the best way that they can is so different for every person, and sometimes it isn't always respected and valued in workplaces, but when it is, we know that there's more support and understanding and loyalty to a workplace and ability to commit to the work itself, because you're doing it in a way that suits their lifestyle and suits the way that they want to contribute for whatever reason it may be. It may be because they have a disability and they need various things, or they have caring responsibilities, and it's so important. So it's so great to actually realize even just the Future You program has applications across the lifespan, really, across different areas of our community, across different workplaces and organizations. And it would be awesome that if we could actually implement that and highlight to employers that that's something you can do to really level the playing field for your staff, to get the most out of them by supporting them for who they are, just as they are.
Yeah, it's like what Bree said in the previous session about, have you asked them?
Yes.
What do people want? Well, ask them.
Yeah.
And the answer might be different one day to the next, because needs vary and situations vary. So being rigid is really the enemy of this type of work. That, you know, we all know we can feel very different one day to the next. So look, it's an important aspect that people need to be flexible, not just in, you know, you can work 2 days in the office and 3 days at home, but genuinely flexible, and say what's going to enable you to do your best work.
Absolutely.
And that's how we try and work at the Office of the Women in STEM Ambassador. And it's a work in progress. Nobody's perfect, and that's fine too.
And recognising that it's a work in progress is progress. Recognising that arbitrary 3 days at work, and like it doesn't work for everyone. And obviously so much has changed since the pandemic. Having inclusive workplaces, having that flexibility to really enable people to shine the way they need to shine, is so crucial, and it really highlights something as simple as ask the question. Don't make assumptions. Don't assume that what you're doing and the investment you're making is actually creating that difference, when it's so important to really communicate with the community you're supporting or wanting to make change or an impact in. And it just seems so simple, but it sometimes isn't done because there's that assumption and there's those biases and stigmas and so on and so forth. So it's really great to have had all the guests today really share different insights from different parts of the sector, different parts of the work they do. But the overarching theme is communicate, support, understand, don't work in silos, really connect with one another and understand what resources are out there and how we can best utilize them, and ask other organizations or other teams or other projects on how we could work together to make and reach a common goal.
Yeah, sounds simple, doesn't it?
Yes, it is. And on that note, we are out of time for today. I would really like to thank all of the panelists, and thank you for having me. And I would like to thank UNSW for having me, and I appreciate everybody's enthusiasm and involvement online. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Aki. It's been a fantastic, rich and fascinating series of discussions we've just had. I'd like to also thank all our speakers, our MC, Aki, and our production partners for putting on a superb event. And a special thanks goes to Dr. Lucy Buxton and Becky Lawrence from our team for their leadership in organising this event. Look, I hope it's encouraged you to access our research, our resources and our evaluation portal and put them to good use in your workplaces. I'd also like to thank the Australian governments, past and present, for funding this initiative. It's a great honour to have the opportunity to contribute to government policy and government programs and initiatives to improve equity in STEM. And finally, I'd like to thank every member of the Women in STEM Ambassador team, past and present, who have brought their skills, their talents and enthusiasm to make STEM in Australia more inclusive. You've created some amazing, extraordinary resources that will continue to inform the sector's responses to gender inequity for many years to come. You should be very proud of yourselves. Now, all that's left for me to do is to thank you for joining us today and to wish you a very good afternoon.